It was a gray afternoon when Daniel Harper sat alone at a small cafe table, nervously stirring his coffee that had long gone cold. The rain outside streaked the window, distorting the view of the busy New York street, but Daniel barely noticed. His heart was racing for reasons he couldn't quite explain. He wasn't a man who often had time for coffee shops. A single dad with a 7-year-old daughter, he juggled 2 jobs, plumber by day, janitor by night, and most days ended with him collapsing on the couch, too tired to dream. Yet today was different. Today, he was waiting. His oldest friend, Michael, had promised to meet him. Michael had been more than just a friend, he was the one who had helped Daniel after his wife passed away. The one who had loaned him money when bills stacked higher than his hope. The one who kept reminding Daniel that life wasn't over. But Michael had been distant lately, hard to reach. When he finally called and suggested they meet, Daniel felt a strange mixture of relief and dread. He told himself it was just going to be 2 old friends catching up. Still, his hand trembled each time he lifted his coffee. And then the door opened. But it wasn't Michael who stepped inside. It was a young woman in a long ivory coat, her dark hair swept back with precision, her eyes sharp yet soft with unspoken stories. She looked utterly out of place in the modest cafe, like someone who belonged in the pages of a magazine or behind the tinted glass of a limousine. She scanned the room, her gaze locking on Daniel. Confused, Daniel glanced behind him, certain she must be looking for someone else. But no, the woman walked straight toward him, her heels tapping the wooden floor with quiet authority. "Mr. Harper?" she asked, her voice calm but tinged with urgency. Daniel blinked. Yes, do I know you?" She shook her head gently, pulling out the chair across from him without waiting for permission. "Not yet, my name is Mei Lin." She extended a delicate hand, one that looked unaccustomed to calluses or hard work. Daniel hesitated, then shook it. Her grip was firm, professional. "I'm sorry," Daniel said, his voice low. "I was expecting someone else." "I know," May replied softly, her eyes never leaving his. "You were waiting for Michael. Your friend." Daniel froze. "How do you?" "I came instead," she said. Her expression tightened, as though she knew the storm she was about to unleash. "Because there's something you need to see. Something about him." She reached into her leather bag and pulled out a manila folder. Daniel's chest tightened. His instinct screamed at him to get up and leave, but something about the quiet intensity in her eyes pinned him in place. With careful hands, May opened the folder and slid a stack of documents and photographs across the table. Daniel leaned forward, hesitant. His eyes caught the first photo, and his breath caught. It was Michael, smiling, arm in arm with a man Daniel recognized instantly, his late wife's lawyer. The same lawyer who had handled her estate after the accident. The same lawyer who had assured Daniel that his wife had left little behind but debt. And then the documents, bank statements, signatures, property transfers, all tied back to Michael. Daniel's pulse thundered in his ears. This can't be right," he whispered, flipping through the pages with trembling hands. "Michael, he helped me. He gave me money when I had nothing." May's gaze softened. "Yes, because it wasn't his money to give. It was yours." Daniel's head snapped up. "What?" She nodded. "Your wife, she came from wealth, didn't she? Old investments, property in her family's name." Daniel shook his head in disbelief. "No, she never mentioned." "She didn't want you to worry," May said gently. "But it was there. And when she passed, Michael and the lawyer worked together to hide it from you. They siphoned everything away." The cafe seemed to blur around him. His chest ached as though someone had carved out his heart. "My wife trusted him," Daniel whispered. "I trusted him." May reached across the table, placing a hand over his. "I know this is hard. But you need to hear the truth. Because it involves more than just you." Daniel pulled his hand back, struggling to process. "Why are you here? Why are you telling me this?" For the first time, May's composed facade cracked. Her eyes glistened with something raw. "Because I'm a victim of him, too," she said quietly. Daniel stared. May took a deep breath. "My family, we're from Shanghai. My father built one of the largest textile companies in Asia. But Michael, he came to us as an investor, a partner. He promised growth, expansion into the West. He charmed my father. She faltered. He even asked for my hand." Daniel's stomach twisted. "But then," May continued, her voice breaking, "he betrayed us. He drained accounts, shifted assets, and left us in ruins. My father, He died of a heart attack not long after. I lost him, and I lost everything. She straightened her shoulders, her tone hardening. When I followed the trail, it led me here. To you. To what he did to your wife's estate. To how he built his empire on lies. Daniel's throat was dry, it didn't make sense, and yet, somehow, it made perfect, devastating sense. He had always wondered how Michael had risen so quickly in the business world. How his friend had gone from scraping by to hosting galas. He had assumed it was luck, timing, maybe even genius. But no, it was theft, it was betrayal. Daniel pushed the folder away, his hands shaking. Why show me this? I can't fight him. He's powerful. He has money, lawyers, everything I don't. May's expression softened again. You have something he doesn't. Truth, in me. Their eyes locked. For a long, heavy moment, Daniel saw past her wealth, her poise, her foreign elegance. He saw another soul carrying grief, loss, and betrayal. Different lives, different worlds, but the same wound. And then, for the first time, he noticed something else in her eyes. Not just pain, determination. You want to stop him, Daniel said quietly. May nodded. Yes, and I can't do it alone. The story unfolded like storm clouds gathering. May stayed in New York longer than she planned. She and Daniel met in libraries, poring over documents late into the night. She showed him the trails Michael thought he'd buried. Offshore accounts, shell companies, silent partners. Daniel, though untrained, had an instinct for honesty. Where May brought precision, Daniel brought clarity. She would hand him a stack of numbers, and he would ask simple questions, human questions, that exposed cracks in Michael's empire. Through it all, Daniel's daughter, Emily, became an anchor neither of them expected. She was a bright, curious child with her mother's smile and her father's resilience. When May visited their modest apartment, Emily clung to her hand instantly, as if she sensed something good in the stranger. One evening, as Daniel cooked pasta on the stove, he overheard Emily giggling in the living room. May was kneeling on the floor, teaching her how to fold paper cranes. This one is for your mother, May said gently. A bird to carry her memory. Daniel's chest tightened. He had never seen Emily open up so quickly to anyone. And he had never imagined someone like May, polished, powerful, sitting cross-legged on his old carpet, laughing with his daughter-like family. It was disarming, it was healing, and it terrified him. Because every kindness May showed reminded him of the betrayal that still hung over them like a blade. The confrontation came sooner than either expected. Michael finally called. Danny, he said over the phone, his voice smooth as ever. I hear you've been asking questions. Daniel's grip tightened around the phone. His daughter played in the next room. May sat silently at the kitchen table, watching him with steady eyes. You lied to me, Daniel said, his voice low. There was a pause, then a chuckle. I protected you. You couldn't handle the truth back then. You had a child to raise, debts to drown in. I gave you what you needed. You stole what was mine, Daniel snapped. No, Michael said coolly. I used it better. Look at me now. Look at us. We're successful because of it. You should be thanking me. Daniel's stomach churned. Meet me tomorrow, Michael said. We'll settle this like friends. And then the line went dead. May's eyes burned with fire. It's a trap. Daniel nodded. I know, but he also knew he had to go. The next day, under the shadow of the Brooklyn Bridge, Daniel arrived with May at his side. Michael was already there, sharp in a tailored suit, a smile that no longer looked friendly but predatory. Well, Michael said, spreading his arms. Danny boy, and who's this? Ah yes, the heiress. I've heard whispers. May's gaze was ice. You destroyed my family, she said coldly. Michael smirked. Business, darling, don't take it personally. Daniel stepped forward, his fists clenched. You betrayed me. You betrayed her memory. Michael's smile faltered for the first time. Careful, Danny, you don't know what you're playing with. But Daniel did, because for the first time, he wasn't alone. May handed over the final piece of evidence, an audio recording she had captured weeks ago, a slip Michael made during a drunken meeting. When Michael realized what she held, his face drained of color. It's over, Daniel said, his voice steady. For a long moment, silence hung heavy. Then Michael's mask shattered, replaced by rage. But it didn't matter, because in that moment, Daniel knew the truth was no longer his burden alone.